When my father started drinking heavily again, his business started to fail. The stress of having no money was compounded by the chaos of my father's extreme mood swings. I was particularly scared to get in the car with my dad because he would talk to himself while he was driving. I couldn't understand the words he was saying. He seemed to be in his own world. I knew even then that my father had reasons for wanting to lose himself in drinking. He was stressed out by work. Now I see even more clearly that he was self-medicating after enduring years of abuse at the hands of his father, June. At the time, though, I had no idea why he was so hard on us. Why nothing we did seemed to be quite good enough for him. The saddest part to me was that what I always wanted was a dad who would love me as I was. Somebody who would say, "I just love you. You could do anything right now, I'd still love you with unconditional love." My dad was reckless, cold, and mean with me, but he was even harder on Brian. He pushed him so hard to do well in sports that it was cruel. Brian's life in those years was much rougher than mine because our father put him through the same brutal regimen June had pushed on him. Brian was forced to do basketball and also football, even though he wasn't built for it. My dad could also be abusive with my mom, but he was more the type of drinker who would go away for days at a time. To be honest, it was a kindness to us when he went away. I preferred it when he wasn't there. What made his time at home especially bad was that my mom would argue with him all night long. He was so drunk he couldn't talk. I don't know if he could even hear her, but we could. Brian and I had to suffer the consequences of her rage, which meant not being able to sleep through the night. Her screaming voice would echo through the house. I'd storm out into the living room in my nightgown and beg her, "Just feed him and go put him to bed, he's sick." She was arguing with this person who wasn't even conscious. But she wouldn't listen. I would go back to bed furious, staring daggers at the ceiling, listening to her yell, cursing her in my heart. Isn't that awful? He was the one who was drunk. He was the one whose alcoholism had made us so poor. He was the one passed out in the chair. But she was the one who ended up pissing me off the most. Because at least in those moments he was quiet. I was so desperate to sleep, and she wouldn't shut up. In spite of all the nightly drama, by day my mom made our home a place my friends wanted to come to, at least when my father respected us enough to drink somewhere else. All the kids from the neighborhood came over. Our house was, for lack of a better word, the cool house. We had a high bar with 12 chairs around it. My mom was a typical young Southern mom, often gossiping, always smoking cigarettes with her friends at the bar. She smoked Virginia Slims, the same cigarettes I smoke now, or talking with them on the phone. I was dead to all of them. The older kids would sit on the bar chairs in front of the TV and play video games. I was the youngest one. I didn't know how to play video games, so I always had to fight to get the older kids' attention. Our house was a zoo. I was always dancing on the coffee table for attention, and my mom was always chasing after Brian when he was little, jumping over couches, trying to catch him so she could spank him after backtalking her. I was always overly excited, trying to draw the older kids' eyes away from the screen in the living room, or to get the adults to stop talking to one another in the kitchen. "Brittany, stop!" my mother would yell. "We have company. Just be nice, be on good behavior." But I ignored her. And I would always find a way to get everyone's attention.